Hello, my name is Austin and this is my dad, Todd. A few weeks ago, we had the opportunity to check out and unwrap the all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus Black Label. My dad and I both did a thorough walk around and review of the Black Label, and we walked away from that thinking that $80,000 was quite a steep price for the new Nautilus.
Very true.
However, we are now standing in front of a 2024 Lincoln Nautilus Reserve with an MSRP near $25,000 less than that Black Label. Does $25,000 on options on the Nautilus truly make it worth it? Let's check out this Nautilus and find out. Before we dive too deep into this video, I need to give a huge shout out to Apple Lincoln Apple Valley for giving us the opportunity to drive this Lincoln Nautilus. Apple Lincoln Apple Valley has an all-new facility here in Apple Valley, Minnesota. Beautiful new facility. If you guys are interested in any new Lincoln product, please be sure to check out the link down in the description below.
If this is your first time tuning into Performance on Wheels, know that this father-son team makes all sorts of videos on cars. Whether they're performance or luxurious, we got you covered. Hit that like and subscribe button, support our cause.
What we're looking at today is a Nautilus Reserve 1. And just right before I get into talking about anything on this thing, we need to take a moment to appreciate how unbelievably good this car looks right now. I have a feeling that might have to do with the only option that is on this Reserve 1, which is the $750 lustrous gray metallic. It does look very, very good. Now, we did compare the Black Label to, well, we are comparing the Black Label to this, but there is one below this, which is the Premier. So it goes Premier, then Reserve. However, you guys, when you're shopping for one of these, you need to do the research on the specs and the trims, because I've seen multiple Premiers that cost a lot more than Reserves, and vice versa. So the way that you spec these out can kind of vary. However, this is a bottom of the barrel Reserve, okay? That's all you need to know, bottom of the barrel Reserve, and we're comparing it to a Black Label, which is 25 grand more than this.
As we're talking about the Black Label, make sure you guys check out the video link that Austin's putting up in that corner for us. Obviously, the day we made that video, it was like -20 out, like some ridiculously cold day. So we checked out the Black Label from the inside.
And that was our first day at Apple Lincoln Apple Valley that we got our first shipment of these Nautiluses in. We've had a few customers take delivery of them now. As we continue to get more in, they have quite a big popularity around them.
Yeah, for sure. And what I like actually getting the Nautilus out on the road, being able to ride, drive, and just see the body lines as it navigates the roads. It really gives me a great appreciation for how well this is designed and how much more outstanding it looks compared to the previous 2023 model year.
It's a huge jump. And something I'm thoroughly impressed with is, as we talk about this large price cap, the $25,000 price cap, as I walk by these on a day-to-day basis, working where I work, I walk by Black Labels, I walk by Reserves, I walk by Premiers. Something that I struggle to tell is what trim is which. Like, there's a few key differences that come down to the wheels, the grille, but ultimately, you're paying for stuff on the interior. The exterior is, you're getting a lot for the money.
Right, and I think it's important to bring up, as we just kind of just hit on design here, the 21-inch wheels that are on this Reserve are absolutely stunning. They do that whole like airplane propeller type look as they're spinning down the road. They look really good, and this is the whole flight concept that Lincoln is going after, not only with the Aviator but also with the Nautilus, kind of the quiet glide, and you can see that same profile on the roof line looking down the side on this painted black roof of this Nautilus Reserve, how it just kind of looks like the side of an airplane wing.
It does.
And it makes this vehicle look a lot bigger than it is. And that's one thing that's really stood out to me, looking at it on camera, looking at it as it's going down the road, but then actually understanding the true size of it. Like, this is a smaller SUV, but it has this road presence that makes it look larger than life.
And one of the things that really helps with that road presence is actually the LED lights that span across the entire front and the entire back, which you need the Reserve to get, or you have to spec it up on the Premier. So that is one of the things that I find to be well worth it, are those headlights and those taillights, because those things are absolutely killer. The presence that they give, the way that the turn signals work with the sequential both in front and in back,
Right.
and the way that the Lincoln logo in the front and back lights up, it is definitely worth the money for those. And another thing that really helps enhance how big this vehicle looks and feels is when you're sitting on the interior, not only do the lights span across the outside, but you have a screen that spans across the inside.
Yeah, the screen on the inside's awesome. Just to make sure that one thing isn't confusing here, I think it is only the Black Label where you get those behind the glass on the tailgate Lincoln words actually lit up.
Okay.
The first time we checked out that Black Label, there's a few design cues that didn't necessarily point out to me. Like even on the side window here on the back, just this whole segregated, integrated lines that kind of flow not only to the window, but to the tail light, to the headlight, to the turn signal in the mirror. It's all really cool stuff. A couple items that stuck out to me when we're comparing that Black Label to this bottom of the barrel Reserve, right? Obviously, we don't have any of that LED lighting on the door. We also don't have the crazy speakers. And one thing I want to point out that Austin started to hit at from the driver's seat of the Nautilus here is just how big this car feels, even though it's compact. A big part of that is because of that sweeping display. One thing that really needs to be driven home here in the Reserve is like how luxurious this feels. We looked at that Black Label that's pushing almost $80,000 in this $55,000 exact same vehicle minus some touches, right? It feels really good in here. They did a great job with the two-tone leather, not only on the steering wheel, but on the different parts of the dashboard, even on top of that, I believe it's, 42, 46-inch screen. The fact that they threw a little stitching and a little piece of leather up on top of there, it's phenomenal. I actually like some of the wood and color accents more in this Reserve compared to what you get in that Black Label.
As we move around back of the Nautilus, it again truly impresses me that a vehicle in the mid $50,000 range can look like this.
Right.
Like, I thought, I'm not gonna lie, I thought the Black Label was a lot of money. This truly is kind of a bang for your buck, almost, you might say. Like, you're getting a lot of car and a lot of tech for the money. I'm not gonna lie, sitting in it, looking on the outside of it, I don't see the justification. I really don't. If I put some cooler wheels on this thing with some better offset that fit the body lines quite well, and I think that's the way to go when you're buying a Nautilus.
We'll get inside and zip around in this thing in just a minute, but just to clarify what Austin's saying from my perspective, because I think we agree here quite a bit, is like I go back to the Genesis, when the Genesis came out with the GV70, even the GV80. Obviously this would be more comparable to the GV70.
Yeah.
Kind of this small, luxurious, sporty, athletic looking SUV. A lot of similarities that the Nautilus has, but like it doesn't feel as cheap in the inside as a Genesis does. Like you start touching stuff and you start like hitting buttons. I think the Genesis is still kind of lackluster, in my opinion, in that area.
Yeah.
Where the Lincoln does a really good job of actually feeling and looking luxurious. And we're talking that mid $50,000 price point. This actually becomes attractive, where when we were looking at that $80,000 Black Label, like I had zero interest. Zero interest.
Yeah, no, I'm thoroughly impressed. And against the manufacturer, this is a negative to the manufacturer, but a positive to the consumer. They give you too much at the base level. Like there's just so much here at the base level that it, in my opinion, makes it hard to look at the top tier level. I don't see the justification to spend that much more money when you get this much for so much less.
Right.
Like there's an entire car purchase, a brand new Ford Maverick purchase,
right,
between this and a Black Label.
Let's go glide down the road.
As I drive the Nautilus through these city streets that aren't the nicest streets around, they are quite bumpy in this area. The Nautilus's suspension handles all of these quite well. I'm thoroughly impressed on the few miles that I've gotten to put on it here at just how well that the Nautilus soaks up the bumps, and they're definitely, it's not floating over them by any means. However, it has a very great feel as you go over them. As I go around this corner here, this is probably the bumpiest road around. And as you can watch just from my head position here at just how well the Nautilus takes some of these It just floats over them. It's a very, very smooth ride. I'm also quite impressed being behind the wheel of the Nautilus at the quietness from the surroundings outside. It's a very, very quiet cabin in here. Can't really hear anything around me. Just had a fairly large Harley go by us, and I bet our mics didn't even pick it up.
There's a lot of things that we comment about the Reserve package compared to that Black Label. Obviously, our seats are the bottom of the barrel seats, but they are still very supportive and very comfortable. One thing I noticed when I got into the passenger seat is I had the desire to want to sit lower than I am able to sit. Even putting the seat all the way down, my first impression is that I'm still sitting up higher than what would feel comfortable for me. So that, call it a perk, call it a negative. As I settle in here, I'm obviously comfortable, but right off the bat, I was like, I want to sit lower than I'm able to.
I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because I feel the exact same way. I definitely feel like I'm sitting up higher than I'd like to be sitting. Not only that, but driving around town here, I've actually grown quite fond of this steering wheel design, kind of the oval shape. I really like the way that it feels. But what I don't like about it is that it covers up the area that I want to see on this massive digital dashboard. Like, they put this massive digital dash in here, yet where I'm comfortable sitting in here, it's almost covering up half of my Speedo. It's just like, I don't, really? I'm also quite impressed driving the Nautilus around town here at how well it stays planted around corners. It actually is kind of enjoyable to drive behind the wheel from a fun standpoint, because it stays fairly planted. It has body roll when you start to push it, but overall, like, it's pretty planted. It's a very like firm when it comes to the side play and body roll, yet it's still very soft in the dampening when we go over bumps and stuff like that. So they did a really good job on the suspension in here. I'm fairly impressed. I like it. Driving this through like the sun setting or the sun rising, the interior is amazing because we get all the light coming in from outside, yet the ambient lights in here are so dang bright. Even with the sun out, unlike a lot of vehicles, I can very visibly see the ambient lighting down to my feet, up on the doors, this massive screen wrapping around me. It has a really, really cool lighting presence that almost to the point makes it feel as special as a Mercedes. Now that we're back from getting to experience driving this down the road, I just want to briefly touch on the interior. If you guys are curious on the full review, check out our Black Label video where we thoroughly in-depth go through everything, including this ridiculous screen on here, which again is amazing. You can put whatever you want wherever you want it. It's powered by Google. It has some amazing animations. It looks really, really good.
You really get the full experience at like dusk, right? Where you start to get the feel of the ambient lighting, and you can actually see in clarity all the screen. It does a pretty good job in the daylight, but just like anything with the screen, like you don't get the full experience until the lights go down a little bit.
Yeah, and like the purple with the stars animation that Lincoln has going on in here, they just nailed the feel. It just feels high end. It feels luxurious, and the dawn driving experience is phenomenal.
Just a nice soft white light on all the buttons, all the controls, like as they're illuminating at night. It really just adds to the elegance, the presence that the Lincoln has, and it's a different experience getting in a luxurious car at the evening or dusk time compared to driving it down in the day. It's like a whole new level compared to your ordinary vehicle.
I totally agree. And now that we're sitting in here, I wanted to touch on a few things. You already brought up the seats, which I find to be important. That's definitely the biggest difference between this and the Black Label, as well as the speaker grills. But overall, the design everywhere else on the dash and everything, once again, I'm struggling to find that $25,000 price gap, because I feel they give you a lot of nice feeling components at the price point it's at. Now, something I am missing for sure is that massive sunroof, the panoramic sunroof, that definitely adds a lot.
It does.
And the Alcantara headliner that wraps around that.
For sure. So cool.
It definitely makes it feel like another step up when it comes to luxury compared to this just kind of mesh cheap feeling headliner. But if you keep your eyes down low, it's pretty solid in here. It really is.
I'll just add to that whole experience difference. When we got into the back seat of the Black Label, like, it was extremely underwhelming. I was hoping, desiring for more than what it had to offer. Now, with $25,000 less, I hop into the back seat of this, and I'm completely fine with it.
Because it's almost identical, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, there's a subtle difference in the seats, and obviously we lose the heated seats and whatnot. We still have some vents back in the back for the passengers, but as far as like the experience back there, I don't mind so much at $50,000 or $55,000, but it did bother me when we were talking $80,000.
I must admit, overall, the experience that I've had today driving this, seeing it, zipping down the road, the lighting at dusk, I love this car at this price point. Like, this is a true competitor to some of the competitors. This is a Mercedes, Audi, BMW competitor. This thing is awesome.
The one thing that I will say is, like, yeah, the powertrain is fine and the engine does a good enough job of like getting you up to speed, but it would be nice if there was a little more zip. Like, let's not lie.
It's pretty lackluster, and there's no really sound or tone to go along with it either. Yeah, I will admit, they're definitely lacking in the powertrain here. As the sun continues to set, the design just keeps getting better on this thing.
It does, right?
I'm thoroughly impressed. Like, the lighting that we unwrapped that Black Label in was pretty crappy.
It
wasn't great. We were in the dealership. It was wet. It was snowy. It was cold.
We
this
honestly
is awesome.
We're not going to make this video, and I'm so glad we did, because the Black Label left a longing for more, in my opinion. And the Reserve trim here, it does a really good job of like actually making you excited about this vehicle.
Yeah, I really, really like this. I think this is great. If you guys are interested in purchasing one of these, highly recommend heading down to your local Lincoln dealer and giving one a test drive, because I think you're going to be just as impressed as I am. This is a lot of car for the money. This should be a top consideration if this is the price point of vehicle that you're looking at. I love it. It's really,
There's
really
obviously
great.
a few people that are going to be upset about it being made in China, but that's for another day. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video on Performance on Wheels. We look forward to seeing you in the future.
See you guys.